welcome to the Rach the Wretched One podcast. I'm Rachel, and this is podcast number 11 of me talking absolute rubbish, but also with some nice little pointers about good mental health, as well as a bit of humour mixed in. So I hope everybody had a really good week last week. I did. I was very productive, I must say. The main thing I've been doing actually is helping my son launch his kids website, which is full of all of his cartoons and comics. So for as long as my son could hold a pencil, he's always been drawing whether it's caricatures, whether it's kind of cartoons that he's created, or just replicating his favourite cartoon characters that he's had. Now, I think the drawing gene just runs in the family because I do like to draw, so do my brothers, and my dad likes to draw, and he used to draw cartoons as well, you know, just as like a hobby. So my son has stated that, you know, he wants to be a cartoonist. It's all he's ever wanted to be. And if you ask him now, the answer will be the same as what it was 5 years ago, and he's 11 now. So what I decided to do is help my child, help him to grow and help him to, you know, realise the passion that he has. I think looking back at my own childhood, I didn't have that much pressure, but I think generations before, your parents kind of dictated where they wanted you to go because they wanted you to do well, didn't they? So they'd be like, look, we want you to be an academic, we want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or be a conservationist, something that, you know, they thought had impact and meaning. Now, I think a lot of us realise that we need to just let the children be. And one of the things that comes to mind is when I first had my son, I had all these, you know, ideas of what he was going to be and what he was going to do, and he was going to speak different languages and all of this stuff and be reading at an early age. And all of that was going well until he started to develop his own personality and sense of self. So, you know, it got to the point that when he was starting school, he was, you know, not being the quiet little child that I was. You know, he was chatting, he was distracting other kids, and it was just not fitting with the program that I had for my child. And also, the kind of discipline that I had when I was a kid, I would have never done half the things that he did. So I was always at loggerheads with him. And I remember it came to a point, we're in the car, and I think he was he's in year 6 now, so I think it was just last year, or maybe it was the year before. And he was in the back of the car, and I, you know, getting ready to drop him to school. And I said, look, I just don't want to hear no complaints from the teachers. Why can't you just be normal? Just be like the other kids and just get through the school day and I don't have to hear anything. And he said, Mum, it's not about who you want me to be. It's about who I'm going to become. And that stopped me in my tracks. I had nothing to say, and I can talk. And the best I could do was go, oh, just be quiet and just get your bag and let's just go in. But it stuck with me to this day. And from that moment, I realised that I was trying to put my own kind of pressures and expectations of what I wanted to be on my child. And it's when I took my hands away, I literally lifted my hands away and was like, right, let's just let him be. He's healthy. He's happy. You know, he's not at the point where he's a problem. It was just not going through the perfect channels that I wanted to orchestrate for him. So at that point, I sort of let go. And it's been good ever since. You know, I've been enjoying watching him grow and be creative and really come into his own. So this website that's been created now, which is called Wakadooey, www.wakadooey.co.uk. That's the name he made up. Wakadooey.co.uk is basically your chance to see the inside of my son's brain, which is very creative. And I'm really, really proud of him. I mean, he's taught himself Photoshop in a matter of a weekend. And, you know, he's taught himself animation. And it's very funny and entertaining. So we've all got involved. So I've helped to build the website. My son has obviously done most of the content. But for the animations, he's enlisted the help of my dad. So we've got a nice Jamaican voice there. And myself, and even my husband. So it's great that we can contribute to this. And, you know, it's something that is part of his legacy. And it's quite flattering that he wants us to be a part of it as well. Now, starting with something positive there about my son, moving into something that annoys me. I don't think I did anything like that last week, so maybe I was having quite a mellow week. But I tell you one thing that really gets my goat, and I noticed it because I was on the phone to my husband, and he is one of the worst culprits for this, is people who talk to other people while they're on the phone to you. You know, why do they do that? They've just got you hanging. So I will call my husband, normally we speak during the day, and then he'll be there, whether he's at work, whether he's ordering food, or whether he's talking to my son. He'll literally cut me halfway through and go, yeah. And I think he's talking to me. So I carry on. And then I find out he's talking to the woman over the counter. Yeah, coffee. Yeah, and, no milk. Yeah, 3 sugars. Yeah. Okay, thanks. And this can go on not for like a few seconds. And it's not like, oh, sorry, let me hang up and let me call you back. It's a full-on conversation that I have to be third party to. So I end up being like that person in the car again. You know, the one in the back seat that is having to try and interject between and the conversation that's going on in the front seat. And I'm like, huh? What? You talking to me? Oh, okay, let me wait. Hello, you talking to me? So now, I just dead it. I ain't got no time. I will literally just put the phone down. So this happened, was it Wednesday last week, when he called me. This is the thing. So he called me. And it was like a normal lunchtime chat, how are things? And I think he was off and my son was off. So it might have been before that actually, because my son was at home for some reason. It might have been after work where he picked him up. And he just started talking to my son, having a full-blown conversation, because my son was saying something wasn't working. And he's saying to him, have you tried this? And then they're going back and forth and they're talking. And I'm like, hello? So I'm like, I'm going to hang up this phone. Still carrying on. Still chatting. And so I put the phone down. But the man never called me back. He probably didn't even remember. He probably forgot that he was actually even in a conversation with me in the first place. So he carried on the conversation with my son and then thought, the phone's dead, and then didn't bother to call back. So it couldn't have been that important. But I tell you, I've got lower and lower tolerance for that. So when it happens to me now, within seconds, the phone's going down. So be warned, anybody that calls me, do not do the half and half. The same way as I wonder how those poor people, you know, the ones who work in supermarkets and they're at the cash register and they're doing, they're running up your food. And you see people on the phone while the person's running up the food for them, like marking up the items. And then they're not even giving that person any conversation. So the person finishes and says, that'll be £12.80. And they just literally carry on their conversation and then tap their numbers in or, scan their card and then they're gone. So there's no interaction. So rude. Telling you. One of the funny things I'm noticing at the moment on my journey home, not to work because I get an empty train, but my journey home, is the people that play like musical chairs before the train doors open. And when I say musical chairs, I don't mean when you're when there's loads of chairs, like in musical chairs at the start of the game, when there's loads of chairs and everybody just plonks themselves down. It's when there's like 5 people and 3 chairs. And as the music's going, their eyes are looking at the chairs, ready to pounce. They've even got the stance. They've started to butt their knees down a bit so that they think, yeah, I can sit down. That is how some people are when they're getting on the train. So craven. So the train doors are coming. We've all been standing up. We all want to sit down. And you see some people like their eyes are scanning the train as fast as they can as the train's pulling up. And they're looking for that empty seat. And then they start pushing themselves to the front, jostling before they don't drop in the tracks. And then the doors get ready to open. And they're not going to wait for nobody to come off the train first. And then they're like, scoot to try and get in. It's like musical chairs. For me, it makes me laugh because I'm like, why are you getting so aggy over a chair? And then you look and they're trying to bustle in front. When it comes to that bit, I just pull back. I'm like the opposite. When somebody gives that much energy, I pull my energy away. I'm not ready to be competing with you over a frowsy seat on the train. I'd rather stand, and 9 times out of 10, there's a seat available anyway, or a seat will come. It's not like the train is packed. It's one of those ones where there's like 2 or 3 little seats left. But it's the fact that they look so obvious doing it, so bait, where they like shifting in front of everyone, their backpack's ready, you can see their heart is like palpitating, their heart rate is leveled up because they need to get that seat. And then when they plonk themselves down, they're like, oh, Like it's a relief. And I'm like, God, it's the small things in life that make people happy, innit? Because I couldn't be like that. And also, you don't know if somebody else might need the seat. And you don't know whether or not somebody next to you, whether they're pregnant or they've got, an ailment where they need to sit down. It's so selfish in a way. I think that's one of the things to my my podcast this week is thinking of others. Are we selfish? How selfish are we? What are the levels of selfishness out there? Because to me, that's quite selfish. Just take the time to just look and assess the situation. And you know what I've noticed as well? It's men. It's like healthy men that do this. You never see like, an older person, an older lady or a man, or I've never seen younger women. It's always like, not young men, I'd say like middle-aged guys. Maybe they're at that point where they're like, I used to be holding doors for the last 20 years. I'm done now. I'm done. Now it's my time. It's my time to take my seat and it's my time to push in front. Damn it. Following on from that idea of, selfishness or, are we selfless or how selfish are we? I'm wondering if I'm becoming more and more heartless. And is it because I'm a Londoner? Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner that I am heartless. Or is it just because, I'm just a bit more savvy? I can see what's going on basically. So the reason why I say this is because the train that I've started to get is being frequented by like panhandlers, people that come on the train begging as such. You see it a lot in London. Incidentally, actually, you're seeing it a lot all over the place, which is probably indicative of the state of the country in terms of people's finances. We had a lot of food banks and things like that. And now, I'm seeing more and more people on the streets, whether they've got drug issues or whether they're just homeless, out of poverty, etc., etc. But I'm seeing that more. But on my train, I've got this tag team. So it's a man and a woman and they get the same train. Remember, this train is from London all the way up to where I live. So it's an hour journey. And they get on the train, because I get the same train each evening. They get on the train with the same patter. The same patter, and we've all heard it. It's like, good evening, sorry to disturb everybody, but I'm looking just for somewhere to sleep tonight. I wonder if you could spare some change. I wonder if you could help me. It's been really hard out there. Anything will be good. Thank you so much for your time. And then they go through the train and go through every single carriage. Now, this is where the kind of thoughts of whether I'm heartless comes in. Because for me now, I'm rolling my eyes. Because I'm hearing the same patter every single night. I kid you not. Tuesday to Friday, I hear the same patter. So for me, it's like, well, obviously, it's not a one-off for you. Obviously, it's not a situation where you're so desperate that you've gone on there and you need a place for the night. It's for a different reason. So I am just oblivious to it. I'm like many Londoners where we're just like headphones on and it's like, I don't want to hear it because I've heard it all before. And it was interesting, on Friday, the same thing happened. And my girl got on, because it's normally the guy and the girl, and I got the girl this time. But on Friday, sometimes you get a different kind of commuter, because you get people that have maybe gone to the theatre and then they're coming home. Or maybe you get people that don't work in the office and then come in on a certain day. Also, I pass through an airport, so you get people that are travelling. So it's a different type of commuter I find on a Friday. So they're like rich pickings. So this woman does her patter. And there was two people actually that, said, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to give you some money. Make sure that you spend it on, shelter for the night. And then the other woman started having a chat with her, like saying, I've got nobody either. Let's have a talk. And my girl was thinking, I don't want to talk to you. I need to move to the next carriage. Quick time. But my girl then put on the crocodile tears and she was crying. And the woman's saying to her, don't worry, well, here's some money. It's all that I've got. But, you take this and you're going to get through this. You really are. You're strong. And the girl's like, I know, yes, I'm trying to be strong. And I'm sitting there like, oh, God. And then two twos, the train, we get to the next station. My girl hops into the next carriage. And what do you hear? Echoing, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. It's a late night and I'm sorry to bother you, but I need some. And I'm thinking, you got money from two people in this carriage, yet you're going to go now and go to the next carriage and do the same routine again. So that's just not sincere. So that is why I look at myself and think, I think I'm a realist. I'm not heartless. I'm a realist. You can genuinely feel sometimes when someone is genuine. But when you're seeing something like that, in a way she's fleeced these two people and she's about to go and do it again. So, you know, as much as I've got compassion for people that I need, and I think I talked about it last week, of talking to people who have, you know, mental health issues and how we all can show them some compassion and understanding. Situations like that really annoy me because it's exploitation and weaponizing almost your own situation and circumstances to make someone else feel bad. And in this situation, the money that was given to her was a nice sum, enough probably for her to lay down tools for the night and say, do you know what, let me come off this train. Let me go and sit my ass down and then I'll come back tomorrow. I swear they must see me every day and be like, oh Lord, that girl's on there again. I hope she don't say nothing because I'm about to do my speech, so she better not say nothing and out me. I'm one of those people that if I see you're really begging for attention, I will give you the complete opposite. I will pay you no mind. I don't know why, it's just in my nature. I'm just one of those people that I cannot stand attention seekers. And it's funny because when I was a kid, my dad always used to say that I was an attention seeker. And it used to drive me mad because as a kid, that was the kind of person or personality that I really would not want because I just did not like people like that. Maybe it's a Virgo thing, who knows. Being a parent and having this kind of low tolerance for attention seekers doesn't really go hand in hand because obviously as a parent your child always wants your attention. That's just the way it is and they want you to give them attention. So if you're like me and I can see a child going, look at me, and I'm not, maybe the imbalance is there. So I have to sometimes force myself to be like, okay, your child needs to talk to you, your child needs your attention. What is it, son? What do you want? To be fair though, most of the time it's just foolishness. It's calling me downstairs for something and then I'll go there and I don't even know why I bothered. And then I get annoyed. But one time, which to my detriment was my own fault, when my son was very young, and I remember this, I was in the other room watching TV and my son had been doing the usual attention seeking stuff. Mom, look at me, mom. And I was tired. And all I heard was, mom, mummy. A bit like, you know when you watch Family Guy and Stewie's there calling his mum, mum. It was like that. But it's like, mummy, mum. And I was like, this boy, what is going on? And then after a while I was like, right, okay, let me go up because he just keeps calling me. It's like, mummy. I go upstairs and the poor child had got his head stuck between the railings of his bed. So you know the end of the bed, like the headboard and the footboard, it had like these like rungs and he got his head in there. So all this time he was calling me because of his head. He didn't say, mum, I got my head stuck in the railings. It was just mum. Maybe I would have come quicker if I'd heard that. But yeah, I did feel bad. Quickly got his head out. I felt terrible because I was like, oh my God, I was ignoring this child. So then I went back to a period of every call I was there. But that did soon wear off because, yeah, he started to milk that a little bit. But yeah, I do think a bit twice. I don't let it drag on that long anymore. But yeah, attention seeking is something that I really, really can't stand in people. So I've come to the end of this podcast and the main thing that I really wanted to talk about was how do you get yourself back on track when anxiety and self-doubt and things like depression hit? You know, how do you get yourself back on an even kilter? Because this is all about stability, isn't it? It's all being held together, that your current mental state, your current mental health is being held together by a foundation. And some people have a really strong foundation. You know, we talked about mental resilience. They've got good mental resilience. They've got a good core strength of mental stability that then when they do get a slight knock, it doesn't really do much. Others have almost like a foundation built on matchsticks. You know, there's a lot of things holding it all up. So there's a lot of affirmations, you know, self-belief and books and, you know, courses and meditations and all of these things are holding it together. But it's still like matchsticks. So the slightest thing can just knock it all and it all crumbles down. So how do we try to keep that strength and build it? And I suppose it's the same as exercising. You know, when you exercise, you're trying to build your core strength, or you notice that you've got like a weakness in certain part of your muscles and you'll focus on that, or you'll try and run a little bit longer and harder. So I guess we need to do the same for our mental health and find ways to keep it strong. So don't necessarily, read one book and think that's it. Or, go on Instagram and there's, an affirmation like, I am enough, and think, yeah, that's it. That's going to get me through the day. It's probably not. It's probably not strong enough. You need to work on techniques to layer up all of these things and build them so that you have this really good, solid base to then fight against things like anxiety and self-doubt. Because, we go through that every day. Whether you're at work and you feel like you're not performing the way that you should, or whether you're in a relationship and you're wondering, what does that person feel about me? If you haven't got that inner core confidence, a bit like that confidence of childhood, when children are so sure. So, right at the start of this podcast, I talked about my son, and he was, he is adamant that he is going to be a cartoonist and an animator. You can't sway him from that. And if you tried, he would have every single answer in the book to let you know that he is doing the right thing. So you almost need that childlike resilience. I don't want to call it naivety, because I think that is our way of putting our own insecurities on children. You're never going to be that, because I couldn't. So I would call it childhood resilience. I think that's what we need to try and build up in ourselves. Observe children, observe that kind of self-assurance that they have, that firm belief of them knowing what they're going to be and that they can achieve anything, and apply that to yourself. And don't just give it lip service. Work on it, because as I said, you need a strong foundation. So yeah, that's what I'd like all of us to try and work on, because I think that is another core pillar to good mental health. And until next time, goodbye.